Yeah, hello. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming along to this Navionics webinar this afternoon. My name is Lance Godefroy. I represent Navionics here in the UK and Ireland, and I'm delighted to have the opportunity to run through some planning strategies that you can do from home using some Navionics tools that are available to you. Now, I'm going to be using the chart viewer on our website, which you see on the screen right now. And I also have my tablet here, and I will be halfway through the presentation. I'll be switching over to that to show you some of the features that are available there. So let me carry on. If I can just say, if you have any questions, I will answer those, but it's more practical if I do it at the end of the session, or rather by email afterwards. So please, if you have questions, do send, do enter it into the question tab in your control bar, but put your contacts, ensure your contact details are there, and I'll come back to you within the next day or so. Be happy to do that. Okay, so here we are. I'm looking at our Navionics website, navionics.com, and I've selected this tab called Chart Viewer. This is an interesting area if you've not been here before. It contains the Navionics worldwide database of charts. It's quite interesting sometimes to look at areas that you've never seen. You can zoom in anywhere on the chart. You can look at the Pacific, the North Atlantic, Hudson River, New York, Vancouver Island, Sydney Harbour, Greece, you name it. It's quite good to look at some marine areas that you may not have had any experience of or have some plans on visiting in the future. So I recommend you take a look at it at some point. Here we are. So I'm going to zoom in on waters closer to home. And here we are in the UK. And I want to run through some things that are available here and then switch over to the tablet afterwards. But firstly, I need to point out to you it's most important always to switch, ensure that you are logged into Navionics with your account. Now here you can see I've got my account available. I'm logged in, and I've used the same credentials that I use also on my mobile devices, as well as the chart installer, the way I update cards to my GPS plotter. This way, you're making the most of what's available to you with Navionics, and everything is nicely synced across your devices. So please always ensure that you do that. Make sure you use the same user login and password every time. Hopefully, it will just be remembered once you do it for the first time. Now, so as I've zoomed in here, you can see we've got all the normal nautical chart features you're used to seeing. Several marinas visible here. I'm just using my mouse to zoom in and out. You can use see my cursor in the top right hand side. You've got the plus and minus buttons. You can also zoom in and out this way. Spot soundings, contours, drying areas, everything is here, all the lights, etc. I have the ability to query objects. When I click onto the chart, the crosshairs come up. Here we go. If I hit the question mark, because Navionics is object-oriented cartography, it enables me to discover more about the objects in that particular area. We've got a depth area, a harbour area here, and we've also got a port buoy named Melampus. The arrow to the right of it enables me to interrogate it further, and I see its lighting sequence and characteristics here. So it's quite a handy tool to have. Go back to the map. You can do this anywhere. There's a cardinal buoy here as well. I can query that as well in exactly the same way. Now, you can see that I've got a menu tab and a route tab at the bottom of the screen. If I go to menu, I've got some thing here called a choice called map options. And this enables me to overlay a satellite or terrain view. So if I click satellite, I'll just zoom out slightly. it gives a very nice satellite overlay, particularly handy if I'm want to investigate, if I'm new to an area, I don't know what it's going to give me. Clearly here I can see an urban area to the north and golf course to the east and a country product to the west, with an island in the middle, nicely shown. It's quite an interesting tool, particularly when you're looking at lake areas as well. It helps you understand what else is going on in the vicinity. I've also got terrain. If I click terrain, this gives me roads, footpaths, and so on. Again, it's a handy tool. So I'll go to no overlay. See also here in this location, I've got safety depth option. At the moment, it's set to 3 meters. So the blue areas are indicating areas below 3 meters, just to show you how that works. If I bring that up to, say, 9 meters, the blue areas are greatly extended, as telling me don't go anywhere else, stick to the white channels. Now, I'm sure nobody watching has got boats of that sort of depth, so let's bring it back to the more realistic, say 3 meters. And here we are. So the top right, I'm going to go back. And now I've got a settings option here. Let's take a look at that one. In here, I've got the units available. I can change the distance to nautical miles, kilometers, depth options. You can see I've got nautical miles, meters, fuel in liters, speed in knots selected. I'll just go back and go to boat settings. And here you can see that I can set the draft of my boat. If I just hit there, I can just use my keyboard to adjust that. I've got the average cruising speed, fuel consumption showing as well. Also within this area, I've got the ability to switch on community edits. These are edits that are made by users of the Navionics boating app, whereby you can add anything from a new wreck to a new buoy to a restaurant to a shoreside facility, maybe add it to the charts. They're always identifiable by an icon. This little symbol here, you can see the green symbol is indicating that these are community edits. Sometimes there was a race not long ago where there was a boat sank, and it would have taken quite some time before it would have been appear on any official chart, but thanks to the community edits, it was on there within a couple of hours, so immediately notifying the community. So I'll switch them off for now, and you see that they've disappeared. Okay, here we are. Now, if we look in the bottom right-hand corner, you can see this divider symbol that's just highlighting here. Now, if I click on that, I get 2 pins come up. I can use my mouse to move them, and I get an immediate distance and bearing from one pin to another. And if I click the other one, it gives the reciprocal reading. This is also available on the boating app. It's a nice tool to have at any time. So you're coming into port and you want to try to guess how long it's going to take you to be there. You can very quickly get an idea of the distance that is necessary to cover. If I go back down to bottom right, select the divider, and that switched them off. Now, in the bottom left, you see I click on here, the bottom left symbol. I've got a choice between Navionics and Sonar Chart. Now, Navionics is our foundation. These are Navionics nautical charts, something that we're all familiar with. This is what we're looking at on screen now. If I switch to Sonar Chart, it's going to show our high resolution contours, half-meter contours. So depending on what sort of boating you're doing, because Navionics is used comprehensively by many, many different users in different locations, even from shoreside fishermen, kayak fishermen, boat anglers, sailors of all kinds, from dinghies through to super yachts as well. So you're able to switch this sonar chart layer on to suit your needs. In the chart plotter, you can filter it, filter the density. If I switch them on now, you'll see that we have them at the maximum density in the chart viewer. Now you can understand why the fishermen really like this, because it helps them to see where the holes and troughs are around the chart. I go out to a popular fishing area right here. This is the Eddystone Lighthouse, and you can see the number of additional contours that appear in the sonar chart layer. If I switch them off, go to the nautical chart, that's our standard contours in the nautical chart. Switch back onto sonar chart, and you can see the density greatly increases. Now, as I say, you can filter this in the mobile app. I'll show that to you shortly. And you can, of course, you can filter this in your onboard chart plotter. So let's just go back to the harbour area. I'll revert to the nautical chart. Now, if I go to menu, you see I've got my routes. Now, because I've logged into my Navionics account, as I described to you right at the beginning, I've got 113 routes that I've done at various times, and they're all in my archive. If I click them, you'll see that here they are appearing. There's one, I'll select this one to show you. It's just finding it now. And okay, so this was a route that I did a couple of years ago. Actually, it's saved in my archive. I was doing this with some friends, and you can see we've come out of this marina here. Sorry, this is the destination, actually. It's because I switched it around just now. Let me bring it up here, but just zoom out slightly. Okay, coming from the marina here, through these islands, out into the main channel, I'm able to check all the objects that were along the way. It was a really useful thing to have at the time, and negotiating the nav aids and ending up into the marina here. That's quite nice to have a reference to that. I can call it up at any time. It was actually in Canada, so well off the chart that we were looking at. But it's a nice thing to be able to keep. If I stop that, I'm now just back to the regular chart viewer. I'll come back over to the area that we were looking at just now. There we are. Okay, so as I showed you just now, we click routes and we get the My Routes archive I've just shown you. We also have the possibility to do create a manual route or an automatic route. Now, I'm going to switch over now to the mobile app to show you how to create those rather than doing them twice. I just want to emphasize it. If I can create the routes either in the chart viewer or in the app, and they're always saved in my archive, and I can create them manually or automatically. So coming over from the right, this is now my tablet screen. I'll switch over to the tablet now to control it, and you can see I'm literally just zooming in and out with my fingers to enable you to see this. There we go. So again, all the chart information that I'm sure you're familiar with is showing. If I click the screen somewhere, I get the question mark come up. Again, I found a buoy there. It's called Queen's Ground. It's Port Buoy. Hit the arrow, and there come its characteristics. It also gives me an option to boat to it. Because my tablet has got a built-in GPS, clearly it will give me a direction and course to boat to that if I wanted to. We've got other tools available to us, as I described just now. Go to here we are. Here's the dividers, bottom right. I'm able to switch to those very quickly in exactly the same way as I did on the chart viewer. Now, if I press the menu option, you'll see coming up on the left-hand side many more references compared to the chart viewer. This is because it's a live GPS device that I'm able to use, but it's given me many more options. I've got a whole series of tracks that I can call up at any time that I've done in the past. Routes, all the routes that I was looking at just now. If I just zoom down a little bit, there's that one I was just showing you, Comox to Squirrel Cove. I've got the map options tab. Let's just hit that. Now this is giving me several different possibilities. I got varying chart layers. I've just described our nautical chart, sonar chart. I've got our overlays, and what I'm showing you here actually is a brand new, literally a week old, the latest version of the chart of the app. If you haven't already got it and you have the mobile app, I urge you to take a look at it. Make sure you've downloaded the latest update. Sonar chart shading is an exciting new feature that we've introduced, helping us to discriminate at a glance between contours. Much more information will be coming about that in the near future, either in webinars or training on our website or through our Facebook page. So just take a look at it when you can. Here you can see I've got other settings. If I'm on lakes, I can go to water level. I can adjust that accordingly. I can adjust the shallow areas. If I bring that up, you just look on the chart. Now you see I've set the shallow areas to 7 meters, so it's telling me to immediately avoid the red dots. Which is quite a quick feature, nice way to switch it on quickly. Depth shading, showing all depth contours available to me at the moment. Now fishing ranges, if I had the sonar chart layer available, I would be able to select various ranges and discriminate between them with varying colors. Different breeds of fish, species of fish swim at different heights, and this is a great tool. I'm well advised by a lot of fishermen. The sonar chart density setting, as I showed you earlier, this is available too by just moving that along, the cursor along from medium, low to very high. Community edits at the bottom left there, something I can switch to switch them on or off, just as I could do on the chart viewer. Okay, just close that. Okay, so I want to show you a nice feature just before I get to the route creation. At the top, the northern part of the chart there, you see a tide indicator. It's a bar. I just come out a second. If I, at a certain zoom level, it just indicates as a bar. If I zoom in a little bit further, that actually shows me a tide of the height of the tide, and the arrow pointing upwards tells me that the tide is coming in. It's currently giving me 2.5 meters. Now, if I press the icon and hit Plymouth Devonport, there we go, just do that again. Here we are. So this is now showing me a sine curve at the bottom. Is telling me that the tide is actually confirming the tide is on its way in. It's going to be high water at 1939. I can see the depth is going to be 5.7 meters. This is reflected in the bottom left of the screen as well. So the height is in the chart itself and also in the graph indicator. Now, if I move the cursor along, you can see that if I want to check the state of the tide at any given time, I'm able to move the curve along until as much as I want. Now is indicated by the vertical bar. Now, if I select the date bottom left, Friday the 24th of April, it comes up. I can look at the state of the tide tomorrow. I can look at the state of the tide this time next year, or 2 years' time. There's a huge database of tidal information available to be selected. If I go to the Details tab just above there, I now see a quick reference to the high and low water times today, and the sunrise, moonrise, sunset, moonset. So this is a useful tool. I can save this to my favorites. Now, complementing this, we have a number of current stations. These are shown by arrows. I've selected one just right in the middle of the screen here. If I zoom in a little bit further, you see this becomes animated, and I've got a direction of the current and the speed of the current showing. If I click the icon and click the description of it above, up comes the graphical display and repeated icon in the bottom left of the screen. We can see the current state of the speed of the current is 1.2 knots. It's not doing an awful lot today. And it's actually coming down as I move the graph along. You can see just at this point, it's starting to turn. Look at the arrows changing. And as we get down to here, as the tide turns, current's going in the other direction, and we can see the speed. It's a very handy tool to have, and you can call it up at any time. Again, hitting the date, I can select the current from a huge database that's available. And if I go to Details, this is now giving me ebb and flood, and the period of slack water, and the sun and moon information. So this is a nice feature that I know that a lot of app users enjoy watching it. I want to show you another feature. As you can see on the bottom, we've got 3 tabs: Route, Start, and Menu. The Route button I'll come to in a section. Menu, we've had a quick look at that. Now, if I press Start, that will literally start a track from when I start moving from my present location. And it will store that track and keep updating it constantly. So at the end of when I decide to stop the track, I get the option to save, pause, or delete it. Obviously, I'll delete it now, but that will be saved in my my archive. So let me just go to Menu, and you see at the top there, I've got 200 tracks. Let me just try to find one here. Okay, I'll select this one here. And you can see immediately on the screen is a track that I did in July 2018. It's a nice record of what I was doing. I was actually on an RYA course at the time. I was able to share this with friends afterwards. You see along the bottom, you've got an arrow there that you can actually start playing the track, and it's giving me the speed of the boat. You see the pin moving on the chart. It's quite rough sea at the time, as I recall. It's quite nice to be able to reflect on that afterwards. Any photos I've taken as well within the app through the camera icon are shown within the track as well. You see the camera icons just over in the middle of right in the middle of the screen there now. And if I come down on the statistics, I've got my current, the speed, the time out, the distance covered, and that compares it in the current versus average. Now at the top left, the track is automatically named as Isla Cristina to Ayamonte. And just to the right of that, I have the option to be able to export it. If I click that, the arrow and square, I can export the GPX file. I can share the link. So I'm able to send this to friends who will also be able to open it up into their devices giving you information exactly how to do that will be covered in another training session. But it's a feature that we were asked for quite a long time, and it's been great since we've had it. We know it's very popular with our users. So I'm going to close this now and come back up to the UK. So let's get back to the routes that we were looking at earlier. So if I click the route icon, we've got My Routes Archive appearing. I click that. There's all the routes that we've had at various times. If I go to Routes and click Manual, I'm getting the option to create a route now, simply by tapping the screen where I want to put a waypoint. Obviously, I'm doing this very quickly. Let's say over to here, into here. So we can now see a route created. I'm going to, obviously, I should be checking that very closely to make sure I'm happy with it, but for the purposes of speeding things along, I'm actually going to say go on that route now. The route is now ready for me to start using. You see on the left-hand side the little arrow that's indicated. If I click the arrow, I get the various stages of the route appearing. If I want to look at any given stage between, say, waypoints 3 and 4, I get the bearing and distance to get to those. You just scroll down a bit further and go to right at the end, 5 or 4 to 5, say, you can see the areas highlighted. So I have the option, it's named it automatically as Route 75, but I'll just name it as Plymouth to Fowey. Okay, let's just come back here. There it is named. The arrow at the top, again, I can export the route now, just as I could with the track. And I've got around my destination, marinas, tides, information, other things that all things that are useful to me if I'm visiting a new area. So I'll hit route again, and now I'll stop it. If I go to route and My Routes Archive, there it is appearing, Plymouth to Fowey. Okay, so let's take a look at an automatic route. This gives me the option to create an automatic route, which I'm going to do from, say, the middle of this harbour. Now, with an automatic route, it's using a function called Navionics dock-to-dock auto routing. I'm going to ask it to take me down to here. It just requires me to put in the start and end point. So I've literally just tapped the screen once at the moment. I'll tap it again to put in the destination in a second. When I do that, you'll see a magenta line appearing, and that will indicate that it'll be a dotted line. That will be indicating that the route is being created, and you'll see a bar going across the left-hand side of the screen to show that happening. So I put in the final there. Here's a route being created. It's done it very quickly, actually. And you can see, well, I've got some warning symbols here. If I click the symbol, it's telling me there's shallow water, to be extra careful. It is actually bringing me through the shallows in the right way, right in the center of the channel. Now on the magenta line is clearly showing me here, bringing me through the channel, the buoys there. Another warning of shallow water as we go over this bar, the entrance to the area. And when I look at where I started, I played a bit of a trick on it because I was actually having to go through a lock gate. And if I click the warning symbol, it comes up gate check chart data. So, and then bridge, your boat height is not taken into account, check clearance. So Of course, I will review this route very carefully, just as I always have to review every route, as we have to do that, making other references to paper charts, other information that we have on our boat. The more references we have, the better. Now, if I go to the top left, I'm going to rename that route as Plymouth to Salcombe. Okay, and I'm going to press go, and it's now gives me immediately, because the tablet, the iPad, has got a built-in GPS. I'm getting the speed and the distance and bearing to go to the first waypoint. If, of course, I'm not moving at the moment, but it would give me the ability to do that. If I go to route and stop, that's it, finished. Now, if I go into route and my routes archive, there are the two routes that I just created, Plymouth to Salcombe and Plymouth to Fowey. So I'm just going to move and come back to the chart viewer. Let's have a look at routes, my routes archive. And you see here, because everything is nicely coordinated, my routes appearing on both the chart viewer in my Navionics account and in my Navionics boating app. So I hope I've given you some new ideas, covered some fresh ground. If you already knew most of that, maybe I gave you some tips that I hope you found useful. But do start using these tools. You can't hurt it. You can use the chart viewer as often as you want. And of course, the boating app, I urge you to go through the menu, start to learn about it. There's nothing quite like pressing all the buttons and options that are available to you. So thanks for coming along. Glad you enjoyed the session and hope to see you next time. Thanks a lot. Bye.